Welcome to Launch Your Leadership. Thank you so much for joining today, where we are here to help you if you are new to or aspiring to leadership. Make sure that you are competent and confident in your leadership. Today's topic is on a subject called contact charisma. I first read about this concept in the book, The Centurion Principles by Colonel Jeff O'Leary. And this book was an amazing read, one of my most favorite books of all time to read regarding leadership. And he talks about this concept in regards to Abraham Lincoln's leadership style during the Civil War. So that's what we're going to talk about today, what it is and how you can introduce that and sustain that in your leadership. This was something that we see in the life of Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War that went beyond surface level charm. It was about creating a deep connection so that people knew that he genuinely cared. And that's what we need to do and aspire to in our leadership. Go beyond surface level charm, create a deep connection so people know you genuinely care. It's about contact charisma is about showing up, about being transparent, about being approachable, just as Abraham Lincoln did when he spent half of his time during the Civil War on the battlefields. So he wouldn't just sit perched atop this ivory tower of his presidential role, but rather during the time of our nation's greatest internal conflict, the Civil War, he spent 50% of his time meeting with his generals face to face on the battlefield. He didn't call them to the White House. He went down and met them where they were. The purpose of these meetings was so he had a firsthand account of the condition they were in. Let me repeat that. The purpose of these meetings was so that he had a firsthand account of the condition the generals were in. He wanted to know how they were doing. He was so intentional about this aspect of his leadership that it was imperative to him that he had this personal interaction, and he purposefully showed that he genuinely cared about building those relationships. Now, this was not to set him up for greater success in his presidential role. It wasn't about hubris, but it was about being more transparent with his generals. It was a similar concept to this that I read in one of John Maxwell's books. I believe it's a 360-degree leader, where he encourages us to walk slowly through the halls. This emphasizes the power of relationship building as the foundation of effective leadership. So, how can we introduce that? How can we apply that? And how can we lead today with this concept called contact charisma? Well, let's dive into 7 practical ways to develop it in your leadership. The first way is stop saying you don't have time. I get it. The more responsibilities you get in leadership, the more it feels like you need a 48-hour day. You need a whole week's worth of time to get done in one day what you really need to do. Your task list is so long that you might not think that it's valuable and that you should spend the time on making those connections with the people that you lead. However, we have to break out of that concept that we have been perhaps so accustomed to that says get these tasks done as a leader and make sure all these boxes are checked. Instead, carve out time every single day, even if it's just a quick check-in. If you're in an office, walk in, and instead of going straight to your area, your desk, your office, walk intentionally to the people that you lead. Tell them good morning, ask how their day is, and just a quick check-in makes all the difference. If you lead a virtual team, then whatever communication method you use, check in with them. Just send them a quick Slack, send them a quick Teams message, whatever. Schedule a 5-minute check-in Zoom or a 5-10 minute team meeting check-in Zoom to kick off the day. How's everybody's day going? Everybody got your tasks? You need anything? Let's move forward for the day. This connection that we have to make takes intention. You can't just expect your people to know where you are in their leadership and in your leadership. You can't expect people to read your mind on what tasks you want them to do on the relationship side of things. It is your responsibility. It is my responsibility to make these connections. So, number one, stop saying we don't have time. Number two, be an encourager. This might sound like something simple and something easy to do, but look beyond when somebody accomplishes a project and does something that's so grandiose. Do it on a daily basis where it becomes a habit, not just to do it for no reason, but do it because that's who you are and that's how you see the potential in that individual. The more encouraging that we are, the more uplifting that we are, the more it becomes a part of the culture for your leadership, for your team, for your ministry, for your church, for your department, for your organization. The more you encourage people, the more potential gets pulled out and the more things that you eventually can accomplish and the greater things that you can do. And that's the ultimate goal, to make sure that we're all moving things and progressing forward together in a positive manner. But if we're an encourager, then that pulls that out of people. Okay, the third thing is show that you value the opinion of other people. You have to foster an environment where all voices are heard and avoid just listening to people who are agreeing with your decisions or agreeing with your ideas or your plans. You have to make sure all voices are heard, because it's impossible for any single one of us to think of every single angle, to come at it from every single perspective. So open up, make sure you're vulnerable, make sure you're transparent, and that there is psychological safety built inside of your team so that they're okay and they're comfortable. They're not afraid to speak up and to speak out, saying, well, did we consider this angle? Not bring pessimism in, not to stifle productivity or to kill that creative spirit, but to make sure that we're approaching every angle. Did we leave this group out? Did we address this issue that might come up? How can we approach it in these different ways? So the next time you go to make a decision, actively ask for opinions. If someone's being quiet, perhaps they're thinking and they're mulling it over. And maybe you call them out and say, hey, what are you thinking? Where's your head in this? What's your opinion? I want your feedback. I need to hear from you. Right? Do that. Validate that they are giving your input. Not every idea is going to be used. Not every idea is the right time. Not everything has to be instituted. Maybe some things just are not relevant to it. That's okay. But as long as we make sure we continue to pull that opinion out of every single person and that there is true value in it, then that'll continue to grow your contact charisma with your team. All right. The next is to focus on your why. There has to be an intentionality in everything that you do, speaking back to the why. If an idea is introduced, a project is instituted, a direction is chosen, does it answer back to the why? And this isn't something where you cast vision in Q4 for the next year or Q1 for the whole year and then you never talk about it again. This is about casting vision and then constantly revisiting that. Whenever an idea is presented, first ask, does this answer back to the vision? Does this support our why? And if you keep going back to that, if you keep referencing that, if it keeps coming up in conversations and in meetings, eventually your team will absorb that. And before they move, before they come to you with an idea, they're looking at it through that lens and that filter as well. They'll begin to ask themselves, this seems like a great idea, but does it answer back to our why, to this purpose, what we are trying to accomplish? If it doesn't, it might be a great idea, but again, the timing might not be right. So focus on that. And when you build that into your culture, it'll help you with that contact charisma in your team. The next is that perhaps we could have put this as the number one thing, but remember that leadership is about others. I get it. As leaders, we're humans and we're going to have bad days. We're going to wake up and we're going to have a flat tire on the way to work. We're going to be maybe just a smidge off of our routine in the morning. Maybe we go through big crisis in this particular season of life. Who knows? But we're human. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we still are responsible for leading others. The reality is, while we are living in our normal day to day, we have to be transparent. We don't let those things affect and shape us in a negative way for our leadership, but we're vulnerable enough so that other people know, Hey, we're human. We go through things. And this might be the reason why today my head is in this particular spot. Maybe this is why I'm focused on this. Maybe this is why I'm not super attentive to this today or this week or right now. But you have to make sure that leadership is about other people. So you're vulnerable in those conversations. You're putting them first. Hey, I know this is going on. What needs do you have? What do you need from me? And all of this shifts your focus and shifts the team's focus from knowing, from maybe perhaps believing that you might be. What kind of leader are you? Are you in it for yourself, personal gain? To, hey, this individual really cares about us. He's concerned about our well-being because he's transparent. He's vulnerable. She understands that we need this development, and they will more respect you if you understand that it's really about them, and everything that's happening in life is not going to impact you still being an effective leader to your team. All right, the next is to get out of your comfort zone. Now, there's two zones that you need to be working in. Okay. Number one, your uncomfortable zone and your strength zone. You need to find where those things overlap. See, our comfort zone does not always coincide with our strength zone. Sometimes our comfort zone is literally for our comfort and has nothing to do with operating in our strengths. But even though this might not come naturally to you, all the things that we're talking about today, discussing your life with your teammates or with peers, or even just quick check-ins, that might not be a natural reaction. That might not be where your head immediately goes on a daily basis. So you got to move out of that comfort zone. Growth in ourselves requires stepping out into a place that might be a little uncomfortable, but operate in your strength zone. If you're the type of person that it's easy for you to grab coffee for your coworker in the morning, grab a coffee for a coworker, set it on their desk. You don't have to say anything. You might be the type of person that comes in and you're very boisterous in the mornings. Maybe you have had your 3 cups of coffee and you've run your 5K in the morning and you're ready to go. It's 9 o'clock. You've been up since 5. Come in, talk to everybody. That's great. But if that's not you, you need to try something that pushes you out of that comfort zone where you can tap into this contact charisma so you can begin to build that vulnerability in others, and your relationships will start to improve. Your team will start showing that when you start to move and make progress in this area of contact charisma. And the last thing is be developed so you can develop. I'm sure we all want our team, hey, our kids, ourselves to continue to grow and to continue to develop and to succeed and to reach higher. But if we're in a leadership role, we can't get them to a certain place if we're not going to that place. We have to be intentional about this. There should be podcasts, there should be books, there should be different conversations that you have constantly about growth, about movement, about progress. What are you doing to improve your leadership? What are you doing to improve your hard skills, your soft skills? How are you growing and improving yourself? And if you're not doing that, then you can't teach other people that they should be doing that. You can't emphasize that growth in their leadership if you're not doing it. You have to be developed. You have to be a few steps further down the road so you can develop them and continue to bring them along a journey. But what that also means is you don't just lead them to the place that you're at now, you lead them to a place that you have been at, and you continue to move forward at a pace where you can continue to bring them along up to places that you've been, because you can speak to that with experience and with knowledge. You have to dedicate this time constantly. Constantly. You need mentors, you need coaches, you need people that you can bounce things off of, you need people in your life, and you need resources in your life to make sure that you're continuing to develop yourself. Well, those are the 7 ways that you can lead with contact charisma. These things are about building genuine, lasting connections with our teams. Remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So start by being intentional about creating these connections. Well, thank you so much for joining today. If you have not already done so, I invite you to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll be notified of new videos. And if you'd like, I would love to hear which of these on this list is easiest for you and which is going to be the most difficult for you to apply to your leadership. Drop them in the comments. I'll read every single one of them. Thank you for watching. See you next time.